Yeah.
It's a little boring with the pyramid twice in a row. Let me see if I can go get something maybe not quite as cool as Bigfoot, but let's see what I got here.
Yeah. Nothing's as cool as Bigfoot.
Where was I looking? How about just another? No, that's not a forest. That's not a forest. Okay.
It could have been a forest. It was just matrix code for a forest.
Exactly. Raining down on it.
Yeah, this is going to be my book cover of my next book, the Oddish Quester series, book 1.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So like, how did you get that done? Was it an artist? Was it an AI assistant?
Lots of crayons. Yeah, no, this is 100% AI.
Wow.
And this is worthy of a discussion in today's world because there's a lot of people like, oh, you're putting artists out of business and you're blah, blah, blah. Okay, I totally get and understand that. Here's the problem, though. I got quotes. The lowest was $850 to do a book cover for the book. And I'm like, okay, that's a whole lot of $10 kids' books to make that money back. I'm not trying to put anybody out of business. I've never had a artist go, oh, hey, I got this great book cover. Could you write a book to go with it? It's a rough thing. And I have used my town magician, Tom Zoller, up there in Cleveland. He does those.
Sure.
And he
Right.
does fantastic work. It's just not the style I want for them.
I'll tell you, overall, philosophically, is there any advancement that hasn't been immediately accompanied by, but that's going to put people out of work?
I say that all the time.
You know what I mean? The Luddites on, and that's 200 years ago now, 400 years ago. I've lost track of when the steam engine kicked in. I have never been an artist. And so I've always wanted to be able to do it for myself. And then having to hire somebody else to do it was always, that's just the price of doing business. But art, not the first thing. It used to be that clothes makers were the art. Everything was handmade, homespun, bespoke.
Right.
And then they discovered that they could do that with loom and all kinds of ways of automating. And it's funny, not only that you're changing art, you're also changing drudgery that used to be what was necessary for mass production. And so we still have sweatshops. They just maybe changed from one country to another. But for some, more than any computerized, automated AI type solution, it's the easiest thing to do is to put 100 people in a room and work them 12 hours a day for next to nothing and churn out t-shirts for America. And so a whole bunch of great quotes that go along the lines of the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. And as we're seeing what's going on in the United States, where we've already got some people, no matter what, they want bespoke clothing. They do it themselves, or they go to a tailor and they're willing to pay $600 for a suit instead of $300 because it matters to them that they have personalization or that they know that like care, person's love went into it. There's a whole bunch of people that just say, what I need is something to cover my body. It's not the statement that it is, not the social circle in which I move around in. When we were growing up, my mom and dad shopped at Robert Hall, which was one of the first places that had, I think, clothes that weren't made by like individual tailors, but were relatively manufactured and therefore less expensive. And if you're clothing three brothers who will wear through clothes quickly, you had to find solutions like that. Colleen, my wife, even more of a story. She was one of 9. You can't go to Gymboree and buy $90 gym shoes. You have to do for gym shoes like Ted, and you have to hand them down and hope that they're not too worn out, that people's foot shapes aren't exactly alike, but you dealt with
it. The reality of this book cover issue is, and again, I'm not trying to put anybody out of work, but when Photoshop came out, it was, oh my God, it's going to put all the graphic designers out of business. It didn't. It changed it. When digital cameras came out, same thing. When real cameras came out, oh my God, digital cameras are going to put all the photographers out of work. Guess what? When the photographers came about, they said, oh my God, go put all the graphic designers that write the ads out of work. It did, but you had more photographers taking those pictures. And honestly, okay, great. This book cover designer isn't getting my pay, but they were probably going to use stock images anyway. So they're not hiring a photographer to take new pictures. So they're not supporting an industry by continuing that. And here's the, oh, totally agree with this one. Most of the people saying, oh, you're putting so-and-so out of business. Go to Walmart to buy everything. Shut up. End of story. If you're going to Walmart to buy everything, just shut up about complaining about any of this, because there are plenty of small businesses that have gone out of business because of Walmart that you could buy your groceries from. I could go to a small bookstore and buy a book, right? We've done that. But how many people just go on Amazon and do it because it's
That's
easier?
right.
Don't complain if you're contributing to the problem in other ways.
In other way. Another thing that I would say about this is it's only taking away artists, making everybody an artist. What I used to have to do to go get someone to do an album cover, whatever for me, was describe it in a way that I really wanted it to be what I wanted to, but I didn't have the skill, the craft to be able to do it. Now I really can go to the magic, describe it in various different ways, and instead of being a person, an omnipotent person that has all those past person's talents into it, it's closer to what I want it to be because I keep trying things, tweaking it, seeing how it turns out, learn to put in exactly the query that creates that piece of art according to my vision of it. I like the advantage of not having to go through somebody else that's going to interpret what I have to say, that I get to do it. And in a lot of ways, I'm now the artist that putting pen to paper, putting color to screen, it's always been, not always, it moved to being relatively artificial. And the fact that I don't have the hand that does it, but have the mind that can think of it and get closer to what I see in my mind.
Yes.
I like that. That's been said. There's no end to the number of skills, industries that we can start talking about. When we started to have sequencers and synthesizers that enable people to not, and honestly, playing Guitar Hero, you know what I mean? They don't really play guitar, and yet it has democratized, and maybe that's not quite the word, but made it so that everybody can make beautiful music without actually having to develop calluses on their finger and take all the lessons and everything else that goes into really be
That particular is a fantasy. You live the fantasy in a video game.
That's right.
And it has, and people used to bitch about that, but I'm like, do you know how many kids got interested in playing music because they did Rock Band and Guitar Hero? And
Exactly.
here's a fact for you: that did you know that the typewriter is going to put authors out of business and anybody could write any schlock and get it published? Wow.
So that's the next step I was going to go to. I don't kill an industry. What it does say is that top 20% are going to stand out because even if you try to go to this amazing creative tool, it isn't human. It isn't something that is immediately identifiable as this particular singer, this particular graphic artist. I don't know, auto-tune came in and now everybody can sing perfectly. We have some people that really played with and abused their career. I was going to go to share. I'm trying to think of who the guy was that really made use of it. But the fact, those kinds of things like, wow, a little off-key singer that I am, I can now make it perfect. You can tell the difference between someone who really has a voice and someone who tweaks it. And then what do? They go out and live perform because they're a studio creation in some way. And Colleen and I love watching our baking show. And you can tell the difference between people that are really good at recipes and precise measurements and do exactly what it says, and the people who have a flair for it, the people who can adjust the recipe so it's got a little bit more ginger than it should, but in combination with the roast, whatever, you know what I mean? That they're either super tasters or they're a good guesser, or like America's Test Kitchen, they've done something 100 times. And they put all that experience into my 101st is going to be the sum total of all the things that have gone really wrong as well as gone really good. And I'm going to do more one and the other.
Right.
So I really love that opening the field up in a lot of ways, even if it is also, this is a sad thing to say, maybe it's just like social Darwinism, they're going to be survival of the fit. And the people that were journeyman artists that had regular work being a graphic designer, a sign painter, but weren't great at, maybe they're going to have to learn how to use the tools themselves and they can still be the intermediary, but they're not going to, whatever that top 20 is going to make it, the next 70%, 80%, they're really going to have to say, how am I going to survive? Do I have to switch to something? I can't be replaced.
It is near and dear to my heart because I am a creative. I've played in bands and with musicians, and I've seen how the world has changed with that. I write stories and I see the people that are using AI to write stories, which is the one thing I don't do. and I see the book covers and the art and I see artists. My one side, I totally get it. And I'm like, man, I feel for you. But on the flip side, the world has always evolved and changed because of technology. We have always had jobs that then go away. People just look at, oh, the 30 years of my life, this is just how life is always. No, people in the 1880s aren't making necessarily a living as an artist. So how is it totally different? Now I can take this book cover and I can go get my local graphic designer, artist, or whatever, and say, I have this, but I need modifications, and pay them. No, you're correct. I'm not paying them the 850, but if I paid them the 850, they'd make a great living and I'd be poor and I wouldn't make any more books. So where's the balance there and all that? So
Yeah. It all depends on whose ox is being gored. And so a coal miner, and they bring in the mining machine like John, right? Man. But that means that, wow, some of the first things that they've automated were the things that were so dangerous, they shouldn't have people doing them. Or they were such drudgery that people died at 40 from black lung instead of having a full life. And so the people that fight for, I got to maintain my way of life, even if we really are doing a whole bunch of different people a favor of not having to, if you're going to do recycling here in the United States, it's a relatively clean. If you look at how it's done in India, there are people who like live right next to the trash heaps, and they go out and pick out electronic components, whatever else might be valuable. But while they're out there, they're coming in contact with all the debris of society, much of which is not good for you. So if you're up there breathing in,
most of society isn't good for you.
I guess that's true. But I would hope that as we see that, as we advance, many of the things that we're doing, set to think that humanity doesn't really have the spark we want to think, that we're very different from the machines. That's really a big part of it. Is it shouldn't be replaceable. That I should be able to write a book that a machine possibly couldn't have done. And did I mention this last time that I got
the letter?
The letter from Colleen? It's like, oh my God, you fooled me. I just really was a shattering thing. It really is. And I went to Fool Fest, Motley Fool, which I use for some of my information for how I invest, as a conference, went away for COVID, now is back. And one of the things they showed is, here's the ways in which all those displacements of various different industries and people are something that the industry is going to take all that into account when you think of how you should invest. And so a company called Five that was really good at helping technical people find spot work, job work. It wasn't a matter of getting employed with an independent consultant. Things have fallen off the cliff in terms of, wow, you mean the AI can create a website for me, create code for me, debug code for me in ways that, and the numbers are staggering. It's not, it can do it twice as fast. It can do it 100 times fast. And even if there's a slightly higher error rate, then you have a human being who steps in and oversees it. And the corner cases, the things that it can't figure out, then you jump in. But who needs someone that was really good at writing one more report, one more, like we laugh about it. Like, there are people working for the government where they have never moved off of old technology like Walk 4 or Fortran or COBOL, and they have a whole career because they are irreplaceable. There's nobody learning those new skills, but they need to be able to adjust this report every time that there's a 4-digit date instead of a 2-digit, like we've laughed about with Y2K. Every time that they expand a field, change the format, have to include new information. And it's a little bit, the fact that Ox being gored as a software developer was my best skill. The fact that I wrote great code, not really. I wrote great code, but it was because I had the ability to see how everything fit together and know like how to estimate so that I could go to a client with a really accurate estimate and not eat it when I couldn't produce something as quickly as I thought it would be. I've had friends that were really great coders and they didn't have that spark. And so I thought they're going to hit a little bit that ceiling of, you're going to be the guy that they need to do all this tough coding. You're not going to be the one that moves into design, into architecture, into those other big terms like that. So the fact that my industry is changing like horribly drastically, and that if I wanted to be now, we're still both coding and goofing off, but that ain't going to last. You know what I mean? And it might be the best in the United States. We're still going to be necessary overseas or in third world countries that need all the displaced coders from the United States to come and figure out how they're going to do things. Or, and for that matter, a lot of second world country like India, they knew that was a huge opportunity. They've been training good coders for generations now that were already the H-2B. I'm trying to think what the exact, we wanted to hire them. We went offshoring and we brought them in on special visas that displaced some of those people. But in the overall, Colleen used to give her son Tim really good advice. You don't want a Joe job. You don't want a job that someone coming in off the street could take your job away. You have to have a skill set. Be a butcher, a plumber, a coder, an artist, whatever it is that rises you up among. I'm willing to stand in the same place for 8 hours and sort clothing or cook things
Right.
that you. There's different levels of skill, and that's really how you get better reward. And you've got to be willing to put in the time to become great at that skill. And so hopefully there's still going to be enough things that we're going to find out. I just read about this. All the stuff that we worry about, like AI can now write things for you. What apparently it can't really do is logic well. That you can't, it can maybe do a crossword puzzle, but it can't do a Sudoku. That's a sweeping statement. I don't really know if that's true, but
Right, but
the core thing and the way our logic, it works in our mind, it'll follow rules of logic to absurd conclusions instead of having whatever it is in us that says, that's like Socratic dialogue falsity. You got me to say yes 10 times, but the final conclusion is not true. But I have to go and look at all those 10 prepositional phrases, if you will, to see where the flaw is that led me off the cliff.
actually the exact comment. So yes, I've used AI already to not create a whole website, but to create some pages. The page builder I have has an AI thing, and I'm like, yep, let's add it. Let's check it out. Gotta know. And I used it to create a couple landing pages for some friends' books websites. And it's not anything that would take forever, but to be able to just say, here's the website, here's what we want, blah, 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 and then go get a drink and come back and it's there. And I change 1 or 2 graphics in 10 minutes and it's a drudge page. It's not anything unique and it's the same format and you tell it and it goes. I think what's going to happen is, yes, there's going to be 1,000 web designers that are no longer going to be able to really make a living at it, but they weren't the ones that were super skilled. They were the ones that came into an industry that's easy to get into, that's easy to use the tools and create a simple website. And what's going to happen is the guys that have more skill that can do the specialty items are going to do, and they're going to be like, yeah, I used to charge $100 for that, but everybody needs it. So it's 1,000 now. So again, it's changing. And I think that's going to be that way for a while.
I think so. One big opportunity that I see is so much of what AI, current generalized AI, depends on large language models feed it to give it all of what humanity had done before so that we can learn to imitate humanity. Someone's got to be doing data cleanse, because if you throw all of humanity at it currently, like we're discovering with social media, you can get a very ignorant, savant, bigoted, various different versions of humanity, because just as you throw Conservapedia at, that's not real history. That's bullshit. It's all the altered stories that they want to be true, but are not. I mean, super political, but that's such an obvious example. If you've ever gone out there, you won't believe the kind of stuff they have in there. Wikipedia works because so many editors and they catch each other's errors, and the total accumulation of all of those people correcting each other gets to a final, very peer-reviewed.
Nowadays, remember, it used to be that way.
Right.
Yeah, nowadays, yeah.
I will say this. I was really happy about this. So Colleen, for one of her classes, did a change to Wikipedia where she put notable people from Lakewood. Hey, I'm one. I'm Jeopardy, and I had the most hugs in an hour and stuff like that. It was in a minute. They have all the things. People monitor content and it puts it out. And I'm not Bob Hope. I'm not Paul Newman. I'm not the people that really are perhaps of some fame, some significance. They've done things. And yet it didn't take it wasn't out there for long. It was out there for a minute. I wish I was exaggerating. So there are things that are already self-cleansing and that people are like that. And if you feed that kind of curated well, like the Encyclopedia Britannica, or curated by peer review, like Wikipedia, but what you're going to start seeing you really have to, just like you've always had to be a consumer of a study to know, was it done according to real statistical correctness? Their sample size and the distribution was across the whole thing instead of already being self-selecting, all that kind of stuff. People are going to have to become ever wiser, consumers of information, because if it's churned out, but it's churned out by someone that makes for a good business letter versus a good personal letter, it's like dull and inoffensive versus you can tell the person that's writing it. You can see their personality sparkling. And if you know how to turn it from one to the other, or you mistake one for the other, imagine we're going to start to see lots of jokes and memes about that. Looking forward to seeing how it goes because I'm a futurist. I want these kinds of things. All of the growing pains are going to be fascinating to see what really sets people off, what really gets good quickly. Already amazingly quick compared to what most people think it should be capable of. But that's because they want to think humanity's at the top of the food chain. And no, the dolphins are the last.
I mean, we just created what's going to kill us for the top of the food chain, and it's not going to eat.
It's the white mice, which are the pan-dimensional hyper-intelligent beings, according to Douglas Adams.
And that's the thing. Yes, jobs may be disappearing. There's new jobs. There's different jobs. The people that are embracing and using what's there, me particularly, I'm in a renaissance of what I'm doing. I've been working on books and writing books for a while. And because I've incorporated it as part of my overall business, it's more than just the books. I'm doing workshops and I'm doing talks and other stuff. But after I've been sitting around playing with the AI and, oh, this could do this and I could do this, I went from having a book or two, I got to save the money so I can get an editor, I can get a book cover, and it's going to take a while, so no big hurry. No, now I don't have even enough time in a day to get everything written because I've got the book covers. Not only that, I've got content that I'm creating. I just worked on the voicemail greeting for a kids hotline for kids to call and ask questions about Bigfoot and Mothman. And the characters from my book run the hotline. So it's a writing endeavor for me that I write the dialogue of the characters, but I found voices for each character. So when you call the hotline, you're getting a hold of my characters and hear their voices and multiple voices. I've got my books in audio now because of AI, and it's done. And I'm not spending $14,000.
Either you writing away at it or spending for that level of expertise. Is wow, I'm taking a big risk in expanding the number of delivery platforms that I'm on. I have to maybe now you can just try.
So I've got a picture book for younger kids on the same characters that I'm working on, which I couldn't afford or have the time to do if it wasn't for AI. And the questers, I have a theme song for them also. Guess who created that theme song?
Cool. It's funny. I just thought of this and I put it out of my mind for a long time. When I started a number of companies over the course of my career, and one of the ones that I started out, Lankmar Corporation, which is the city of Lankmar from Faffer to the Gray Mauser, where you go to make your fortune or get killed trying. We allied with a company called General Magic that was people that had been on the Macintosh team. This was their next project. It was one of the first PDAs, and it had fantastic capabilities in terms of keeping track of, for instance, your calendar and your contact list so that you really didn't have to worry about the email stuff and keeping track of where things came from. It took away a whole bunch of the overhead of doing that kind of stuff. Dave and I concentrated on, they had the idea of software agents that you create little versions of yourself, if you will, expert systems that are good at keep track of all the concerts that are coming to Chicago. And when it fits, like the recommendation engine of here's things that I've liked in the past, progressive rock, it will tell me about that instead of my having to go through 6 different publications over the course of every month, every week to try to get tickets early enough before Chicago being big. They were sold out in a heartbeat. And it was so difficult to go with all new hardware, all new software, new development environment. We couldn't get to. This was adopted enough and mature enough that we could write things that would be stable to make it worth our time. But the ideas were planted then of, wow, it would be really cool to have these kind of agents, the ones that do the check out interest rates for me, find out what bank I should be at, check out, and not only one time, but on an ongoing basis. That I have this Schuzinator idea in my head that for a difficult problem, you don't just give it a try. You really can collect enough objective data and objectives, enough thing so that it really puts numbers to it and you can compare instead of just being a gut feel, if you will. I think we're going to see a lot of that cool stuff coming up. The recommendation engines that we've seen so far for what movie, what restaurant, so forth, they're going to become more and more sophisticated, but we're also going to see they make incredible errors. we have all these segues we can follow on if we want. It's Prime Day. Now it's Prime
All
Day. It's Prime
right.
Amazon. And I went in and browsed around the various different deals, like just walking through the store to see what might strike my eye. But then as I went into things, it kept suggesting other things that were along those lines. And I'm glad that I found a better deal for the same money, or maybe something more sophisticated. I'm willing to pay a little more money. How is this? Why in the world does it think that I'm looking at, let's see, little light that don't require wiring, that's good enough battery and good enough LED, because they can put up in a closet, all those things that I want to be able to do to our house that don't involve by having to go into plaster walls and run wire where it's all has to be according to code and conduit and all that kind of stuff. But then why does it show me steam? How did it make the jump? Because in the name of the product, then it's sex wax, and all of a sudden I'm on a different flight than I expected to be.
I'm sure this, and I've learned a lot of this in the book author world, that they will look at those lights and then they'll look at the last 10,000 people that bought those lights and everything that they bought. And they'll say, okay, these 10 items were bought the most by people that bought these lights. Here you go.
That's right. They also like oregano for some reason. They also like scooters. So as I did a whole bunch of bobbing around Prime Day, I kept getting those things of that really must a very good explanation for what's behind it. Not that it's related to the product I'm looking at, but my profile that it maintains to be, they're thinking, now we know all about it. He's a retired guy in Lakewood, Ohio, and they all like, he's going to need some fungicide for his hanging bat. He's going to need and what's funny is once in a while when it did, what I thought was also a wild guess, it was like, yeah, okay, I need that too. So it was useful, even though it seemed random. So I do have a profile. I fit a type, but some of them were really out of left field. You know what I mean? If you're looking for, in fact, is it worth, I have to be able to do this without losing our session here. Here, let me move this over so that I can still see you. Because this was, what did I buy? Prime Day. What is that?
What gadgets did Alan get? It's like the new segment.
Right. I went out looking for very specific things because Colleen and I have talked about, hey, it'd be nice to see this. I think I mentioned last time, we went to a place called Ralph's Joy of Living in Tiffin, Ohio. And one of those, like, in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, kind of the western part of the state, it had a very complete store where we need funnels that handle peppercorn size, not just liquid size, and to be able to grind the peppercorns into our pepper grinder. Right over here, sir. The person knew their stock. It was having an expert system, if you will. But they didn't have some things. For instance, we had seen on we watch our British baking show, and they had, most of the time when you do ground beef, you just take a spoon to it and you mash it up, and then you end up with some chunks, as well as somebody had a cool thing that was like a thing that really did that work in a third of the time and more correctly, more perfectly. Is that only in Britain? I got it here and it was like $9.99. You know what I mean?
I'm sure if you'll go on the shelf right next to your organic peanut butter mixer.
What was also interesting is, so I really would like, if they start charging like $50 for it, I don't need it that much. Wooden spoon for the rest of my life works just fine. But it gets to whatever that magic point in your head of impulse buy or reasonable for the thing, and it really is good at what. So we often have, we boil our corn, or we make a big pot of something, pasta, and then you dump it into a colander. And if you want to save some of the colander or the water, because you're supposed to, according to various different recipes, that there's a whole bunch of good pasta particles that you want to have be part of what you're going to make, add a little bit of water back in to make it smoother. That's a whole assemblage of. Now I got a strainer, and I got a capture device underneath it, and I got to walk from my stove to the thing and carry a big pot, and etc. They have a thing where a little half of a strainer that you clip onto the pot, and then you just tip the pot, and it keeps everything in the pot instead of it coming out of the pot and having to go back in. Again, $7. You know what I mean? So it doesn't even have to be that we use it every day. It doesn't have to be essential to our life. But for those particular things that someone must have thought of this, right? Yes, someone was smart and made an invention, and it actually came in multiple colors. So how about orange?
And I think Amazon's so smart for this Prime Days because it's such a win. And all these companies jump on it, because what happens is they're like, look, this we normally sell for $25. It costs us $9 just to make it, but we're going to sell it to you on these 2 days only for $7, because what happens is people are like, oh my gosh, that's a great, and they get 25,000 sales on that day. So suddenly they're number one in their category with a bestseller list. Then after Prime, it starts popping up. People are like, oh, well, so many people got it. I'm going to get it. And it feeds itself. It keeps going. And they're like, now we're making our money back.
If we haven't talked about OXO before,
Yes.
hats off OXO, because we must have 30, 40 different OXO things, because every one that I've used, like someone looked at a potato peeler and they said exactly what size it should be and what grip it should be, and that you're perfect for the task. And they did that 30 times. The best garlic press, the best set of spoons, whatever else it might be. So then you build brand awareness of, hey, if I got this thing from Leon or whatever, I own, next time I'll look for one. Let's go check Owling first to see what else they have. And then I'll depend that it broke in 2 weeks or something like that. It actually was right. And it lasted and something like that. So you're exactly right. Even if it's not necessarily a loss leader, it really might be they did the thing that will have follow-on benefits, and it was worth that gamble, if you will. I just recently noticed we've had a new washing machine for a couple of years now, and I regularly leave the door open when I'm done with my last load, because if we leave it closed, it can get a little bit musty or whatever it is from having anything wet that stays inside. Washer cleaner, the scaler tablet, you do a load with this, and it cleans it better for the next 6 months. It restarts the cycle of whatever, I don't know, mildew, scaling. We have not hard water, but we don't have a water softener for our house. And so that kind of stuff, I've seen it build up on our shower head, you know, and there's just enough of those little calcium bits or whatever else it might be. And like I said, each of these things is $1, $9. A pack of 24, full month supply, 12. I don't know that I'm going to run it once a month. I'm going to run it whenever I'm like, what's up? And it's just, oh, you say there's more? I don't really listen to this. I got some sheets. We have multiple sheets, like flannel for the winter and nice and cool for the summer. We have some bamboo, various things, but this is the one that got 100 positive reviews. Out of all of the sheets that are out there, this is the one that everybody said, love it, would buy again, fits perfectly with a little deep extra holder on the mattress, all that kind of stuff. And yes, I'll get another pair of sheets without thinking them, but we have had some things that we've had for 20 years. And sometimes you have something that even if it's got a little rip in it, you use it because it's still okay 99% of the way. And every time you put your foot near the rip and it's, oh man, it isn't right anymore, but this will be a replacement for the worst of our pair of sheets. Anyway, the little stick-on lights that I mentioned, I got a Wi-Fi extender and I already have, mesh throughout the house, but I want to be able to have Wi-Fi in my garage so that I can use my phone to open the garage door. And for whatever reason, just enough outside the house, reception is spotty. If I put an extender there and it's good at picking up, and then all I got to do is attach to that guy, and I got multiple outlets in the garage, and that kind of thing, that just that little yen that I have of, I don't want to have to punch the buttons while it's raining outside. I'd like to be able to, from inside the house, open the garage door, zoom to it. It might have been that I went for a little mad, but not really. These are all little yens that I've had. And then you go out there and say, someone solved it. Let's see. You're like this. I don't know. Apparently I smell great to mosquito. Some of my things,
Your blood.
wheat sweat. I'm diabetic. And so I'm having to contend with that. But the blood that tastes good is the sweat that attracts them. I didn't realize I smelled like a little Zonquil, but they have, I'm putting on bug spray. I have to be careful when I get, because I really have a reaction to DEET. The best of the deep woods off type stuff has DEET in it, and it really keeps the bugs away, but it makes me feel nauseous. Like too much of it. And it's a whole process to make sure that everybody has done it, where you put on all your exposed skin, and then the bugs are uncanny. And just where I was, the bottom of my shorts, but not up under my short, I didn't put any on. And then while I'm walking along, apparently they snuck underneath there. And now I got, who wants to be scratching the back of their leg near their popo in public? But I got this mosquito bite that just wants, I haven't said that, little bracelet that have the Tornella thing. And you put one on each wrist, and it makes a little cone of discomfort for the insects as you're walking along. And I don't have to be a little bit of the bear thing. I don't have to be faster than the bear to be faster than you. And so both Kelly and I have these little bracelets on, but the one that they seem to flock to So at least keep them away from me, that kind of thing.
And with that said, today's sponsor of the episode is Soap Goats Lotion, chickweed lotion to help with your bug bites.
I was hoping that
Soapgoats.online.
exactly, that this would trigger that you are making these all natural things that do a lot of these things. I bought little colored pens. I used to carry all the time a red, black, and blue pen when I really wore more things with pockets, when I really wrote more instead of immediately putting into my phone. What I've noticed is not just carrying around, I hate having not here at my desk. I have a piece of paper and I really want to highlight. Instead of making a big star or circling a couple times, if you do it in red, it stands out. You know what I mean? So I bought a bunch of good, like art pen, again, $5 or whatever like that, so that I'll have my mood come out. I'll have that little alert thing come out when I want to write a piece of paper. Colleen and I both, she really likes cheese dust on broccoli. Not a whole cheese sauce, but just that little bit that's really good flavor to it. So in the past, I found it like had marks in it. There's a brand of for popcorn and veggies and that kind of stuff. I've been looking for that. And then there's 4 different flavors now. But it's not just cheddar, smoked cheddar, white cheddar. They're like, how do I get the 4 sampler pack? And we'll try them all and then see which one we want to get in the big size. And that initial, I want to go get this, turned into, well, that's cool that they've actually diverged, that they branched up and they have 4 flavors. I just,
The pop that I drink, I found that it's the same price at Amazon as Meyer, and Amazon has a way bigger variety. And they actually say half and half iced tea lemonade one. Lemon. So
exactly. And let's see, I take pills for I'm 65. I'm about to be 65. And I have taken good care of myself. So it's not like if I don't take the pill, I'm going to die. But definitely for diabetes, you want to hold it off as much as you can. And I think that I've been getting white coat fever, but blood pressure, hypertension is really one of those silent killers that I've not had with it all my life. But just lately I have. And so now I'm on a little pill to see if it helps, and one for high cholesterol. This is a weird thing to say. If you've taken a pill 500 times, 1,000 times over the last 5 years, 6 years, you lose track of, did I take it today or not? I never thought I'd be like that. I have my pill like right here, first thing in the morning before I even have breakfast, pop my 2 pills. And yet there's still some times where I sat down at my desk and immediately I had something to do and it disrupted my schedule. And then every day is like the same. I look at it, I could swear I reached for. So that's a long way of saying I got one of those little pill boxes that I'll arm in the week for, here's my day, morning, noon, night. Like they have 4 slots, 7 days, and I'll put my stuff in. I already had something like that for when I was taking a lot of supplement, but now I really am going to do the pill take to make sure that I don't miss my metformin or my atorvastatin or whatever else it might be, because I never did. And then only recently did I have those little, my mind is not perfect like it used to be. What an arrogant thing to say, but about that, it really was perfect. I never doubted. I never hesitated. Did I do this or not? And only recently has it been, man, this aging thing is just not for the weak, not for the timid. I don't want to have to think about it hard every day. I want it to be automatic. And so I found a solution.
that's why we have our AI assistant.
And then not pay attention. Exactly that. And it could be that I have it pop up on my screen, put a tickler in and said, hey, Al, it's 10 a.m., take your pill. And then hopefully I wasn't distracted doing something else that I had to say, I'll take it in a minute. And then how long am I going to leave the alert up there on the screen? All that stuff. This just seemed to be a silly, practical, I hope it works. If it doesn't, then I'll find another thing. But once again, $5 for a solution to my trepidation over did I take my pills? Oh,
You know that you like walk into a room and then you're like, I forget why I'm here. What am I looking for? Those instances, what that really, it's
right.
not you forgetting something. That's when you were abducted by the aliens and they had to wipe your mind.
That's exactly. Yeah. I would remember if I gotten probed. So it's not that, but yes, they wiped my mind for that laugh. And then of course I got several books that that I had in my wish list, but now they went on sale. And instead of being 10% off, they were 35% off. Time to spend $80 on 6 books that I like. So Thinking in Bets, a book by Annie. Why do I miss her last name? She's a great poker player. And so it's all about how to make decisions when you don't have complete information.
That's not, Richard, what's his face's daughter, is it?
Annie Duke. Thank you. Exactly.
That's
Richard Letter. He has Howard and Annie are two of his children that are world-class poker players. And he's a great poker player too. I had a chance to play with him out in California when I was going to visit my mom with the play. He and actually we both love words, and we've had wonderful conversations at mensa gatherings and stuff like that. And he's very kind to me. He's in some of my presentations as well as some of his. And it's just nice to have a guy that you really respect, think you're okay. It's like you made the team somehow. You know what I mean? He's written all kinds of good wordplay and history books and stuff like that. And for a Mensa, if I don't know what to get them, getting them a couple letterer books is a good bet.
when I went to my first AG, he was the first person I ran into, almost literally. I noticed
Very
he was
cool.
walking around and he had a name thing on. I'm like, "Are you with the Mensa AG? I'm lost." And he goes, "Right this way."
Exactly. I don't know. His talks there's so much information imparted in a short period of time that I love that overwhelm. When people are a little bit they're doing it as a business talk. You got to tell them what you're going to tell them, and then you're going to tell them, and then you're going to tell them what you told them, and they pause in between and let everybody catch up. And instead, I love the Mensa barrage where it's like, we got a lot to get through. Here we go. And you really respect the fact that everybody there is like you in the room. They drink it in quickly. They listen quickly. I have fast speech with good diction. And so I always say, I really am talking to, put your hand up and I'll slow down. But that hardly ever happens. They love that enthusiasm. They can see my love for the topics that I'm talking about.
I was doing a thing the other day for work where I was having to show people. And to me, this is a very simple concept, a very simple thing. I looked at it for 30 seconds. I got it. Now I'm presenting it to you. And I went through it. I was showing them and explaining. And this is what a lot of people miss. They say, okay, click here, but they don't explain why you're clicking there rather than somewhere else.
While you're doing it.
I went through it and explained why you do this, why you do this, what you're clicking, blah. And then the boss goes, okay, hold on. Let's back up a little bit. What this is for? I'm like, it's for our new tutor learning. And I'm like, that was an obvious. It said it in the meeting invite. And that's what I'm thinking. We're all here. I didn't think I needed to do this. You're just going a little too fast. I'm like, I am.
Oh,
I didn't think I was, but
it's nice that he told you that instead of it being a less useful reading, but it really is when you thought you were working at pretty normal person speed and it was still too fast. I've had that experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I used to do many design meetings for Ameritech when we were doing things. Okay, we got 5 different states that have little baby bell systems. How are we going to make them into one concerted system? And some things, people give you that little sideways head thing, that little, they give you the look that they're not quite getting. And so I go over it and not just repeat. I try from different angles. I try to so what do you have? And then we compare it to that, compare and contrast. And even then, there were some people that it was like, wow, this is often said snottily, but I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you.
yeah,
I've seen a lot of ways to try to get this across. Can I write it out and then you can read it as many times as you need? Not at all being patronizing, but we got 30 people in the room here and we can't stop. We have so much to get through. Oh boy.
that was my thing. My most technophobe user had already gotten in there, played with and said, oh, this is easy. So I'm like, if my most technophobe user is saying this is easy, we don't need a whole hour on this. Trust me.
And also I love it when just that you're trying to explain and then someone that has even more the company background, the specific stuff, and they use words you might not have known that you should use past a memory of a past system. Oh, it's like the XYZ system, but and they'll have the light bulb go off because it just didn't have the context, didn't have the way in. And so it's nice when people get it and then are also there with you to explain it to others. That's very handy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's see. I got the complete Rocky and Bullwinkle. I don't know.
Because who shouldn't have that?
Who shouldn't have that? Like, honestly, some things are, even though I could find it on streaming and stuff like that, I really want to be able to watch it when I want to watch it. I want to be able to know it's the complete so that there's not a bowdlerized edition because, they made too much fun of Nazis here. And now we have to be kind to the Nazis. So we're going to take that episode out. And I say that obviously to be a little bit histrionic about it. Things have been taken out for far lesser reasons. And I hate the fact that someone made a decision for me as to whether I would be understand that it's a joke, understand that it was of the time, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
And I think politicians on both sides of us and Russia have watched those and used it as a playbook. I think
Exactly that. The Boris Badenoff, just Mike. So I got an expanded edition called a book called Nudge. And maybe a lot of how you do user interface is to present the best choice first, or the most obvious, or the most often chosen, but there's different reasons that you would not have it be just a straight alphabetical list. If you got a straight alphabetical list of countries and you got to scroll all the way down to the United States, a lot of times you want to say, I'm going to make an exception, break the alphabet, and put my two main customers, Canada and the United States, at the top. Because otherwise, I'm just going to piss off everybody who goes to this drop down menu. And so it's about what the thought goes into, and that's a very small league compared to all the societal things you try to do, not with coercion, but with make it so that there's an incentive to doing the right thing, making it so that it's the obvious first choice, or that here's a little reward for it. You know what I mean? If you want to have people do more recycling, then you say, hey, you turn in a 3-bag, you get a cookie over here at Mama Bell's Cookies or something like that. And so the first edition was great. And this is now 20 years later. Here's all of what we've learned about how to make the world a better place without being a dictator, without being a jerk, that kind of thing. And then here's the most nerdy one, the algebra of happiness. A professor that specializes in, like, Freakonomics, which I think I've talked about before. They get to the reality of things. They use math, they use statistics, they use real theories to explain why people behave as they do, because oftentimes it's not the knee-jerk ideological thing. Why do urban people sell drugs? Not because they're the wrong color. And how many people jump to that terrible bigotry? Because given their social situation, and if they want to make a lot of money quickly, this is becoming a rap artist, becoming a drug dealer, or there's certain things that if they have that desire to circumvent their humble beginning and make it big, there's ways to do it. And they're not always decent. They're not always legit. It's not, we love using drugs, or I want to wreck my neighborhood. You know what I mean? There's like economic motives, human motives for all different kinds of behavior. And this is, if you want to get to happiness, how could you chart that out? How could you say, if I put a number, since we talked a little bit more about to objectivize things, you really got to get to numbers and be able to compare between. And if I was to like keep track of where I put all my time in the day, and then said, and how many of those things point directly to what I see are my long-term goals, things that make me happiest in my life, and then you can say, why am I wasting all my time over here? It's because it's happening, because I get distracted, because I really can use that to do incremental advancement toward living a happier life. You know what I mean? If I want to have a good marriage, hey, how about regular communication? How about all the love languages, which I know that I think you just posted the maybe decrying of this is not entirely accurate, but all the vehicles that you use to get to those things that you want, this actually tries to put numbers to it. And as a geek, I love it. I will never go, colleagues and I make fun of, how did you know you were in love? I checked my compatibility template and we had a 7.6%. Exactly. You got to put on the German voice if you're going to.
one of my buddies in high school, big nerd, everybody knew it. He had a Casio calculator watch. That's how advanced he was. And he would just make people amazed because he would outside, he had a basketball hoop and a basketball, and he would go and stand there, and then he'd walk towards it and he'd hit some numbers and he'd move around and check the wind and he'd hit some numbers and he'd go, okay. And then just hit without looking up, just bounce the ball and he'd go right in the hoop. And people are like, oh my God.
Like art. Exactly.
And I would laugh my ass off because you know how he did it?
Yeah. He had practiced
many an hour until he found the exact spot to practice and do it every time. And then he just did everything else for effect.
Right. This was all a ruse. This was
yes, exactly.
That's hilarious.
And what you said about the stereotype, the drugs and all that, sometimes you got to listen to those because we know, it's a fact, we know that we can trust white Republican males with guns, right? You got to watch some of
I try to have, especially it's weird. There's so many discussions nowadays that people immediately jump to the worst. They get offended, they turn off. And part of geeking it up is to do a little bit of, here's a path that really might work for both of us. Let's try to get to the number, try to get to facts we can agree on, not immediately to the ideology that's behind it. And then you start this facts in a lot of cases. And everybody does that. They have a big confirmation bias and all that kind of stuff. But I'm so much wanting there to be that you can have a conversation with anybody that's not a yelling, that there has to be something. And I think science and numbers can be a stepping stone towards that, unless the people immediately are, oh, now you're using science, you're just trying to fool me. So that, wow, I don't know where to go if you think facts are fooling you. And
You need to go get a drink. I'll talk to you later. Yeah.
yes. So, but just that also Kevin Nealon, remember Kevin Nealon from SNL? Apparently he's also a funny guy, a good artist. And I had it on my list for years and years, went on sale, time to buy.
Yep.
So I think that might be all I want.
All the cool stuff.
I did, by the way. We have powdery mildew on our begonia. We have hanging baskets. And we've never had any problem. Last year we had whiteflies. This year we had powdery mildew. I found the fungicide that was recommended to go after this kind of stuff and on sale. Yay me. And while I was there, I got some spikes that you drive into the ground near your trees and shrubs that put all those good nutrients into the soil. And then the next season, whoosh, they really, so honestly, I had so much. It wasn't a big thing like we just had windows installed. It was big money and a big decision. I really used the Choosinator. This was a whole bunch of all those little itches that I finally got to scratch, and total spent nothing, a couple $100, but like 20 things that solved little problems.
Yeah, $100 instead of 6 or 7.
Honestly, it was the fact that if I'm going to buy it eventually, it's been on my wish list for a while. This is the time. Strike while you're there and stuff. So I don't know. We can regularly have a segment on, hey, what's the latest?
What the coolest little gadget? We do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
Sometimes it's books, sometimes it's movies.
Yeah. I always try to do this. The geekery part of this relentlessly is I love the fact someone thought about what's the right way to make a meat masher so that is 3 or 4 or 5 the right number. You know what I mean? What should it be made out of so that it doesn't, then it'll do a real good job with cutting, but then as it touches it gets hotter in your hand, and then I got to put a wooden handle on it. And so I've talked about this many times. I love materials science. I love the fact they understand enough of, you start off with this thing, then if you dope it with a certain other thing, withstands. Well, we just had to have a tempered glass window put in for one of our landing windows because you don't want to fall out a window and have it cut you to ribbon. And because it's on a landing, you're in motion compared to most other things where you're just sitting near it. And so it's a law that they actually said, do this right thing to prevent tragedies. There's been enough that this is the way we could have prevented. But I don't want to what's tempered glass? And so you hop onto a website. The internet is wonderful. You can really find out, here's how they make it. They make a regular sheet of glass, and then they do a cool heating and cooling thing where it changes the compression of the outside of the glass compared to the tension on the inside of the glass, so that instead of hardening, making big jagged edges, it shatters into many little pieces. And the strength of tempered glass is 4 times as much, 3,000 psi that goes to 1,000 psi, so that and not only it resists like you want for a windshield or any kind of glass on a car or for various other places, it resists shattering, but then when it shatters elegantly and so I've said the phrase tempered glass multiple times that I really know it, not until I looked it up while I was researching, what am I buying? If I'm going to, and same with, how does glass work that it keeps a little bit of sun? It's not just pure glass, it's laminated. They've got a thing that's very clear, but that is not clear to UV. It's near opaque. And so I can see out my windows perfectly, but it keeps the sun out. And I just love the fact that people were smart enough, transparent aluminum on Star Trek. There really is now.
Computer.
Transparent. Exactly. I just stand for what God he could. And finding out like the reason that you use titanium.
Because there's not enough vibranium and it's all in Wakanda. That's why.
They do have unobtainium that really in short supply all world. You have to have the 2 rosins combined. So that's part of this cool. I don't like to just like shopping wise. I never know. I'll take the green one. I like to know matters to me and which products embody it the best. And so in my mind, I always have a little bit of a choosinator running, but for a big thing, like buying a car, like we just talked about, or buying a couple $1,000s worth of windows, you really want to say, I got 6 different Windows vendors coming in to tell me all about, they've got vinyl and they've got formaldehyde and they've got various different doping things. Here's how the glass is. I really wanted to be able to compare semi objectively and accurately between them. So broke out the choosinator, and I just think that it's one of those things that how many problems could be solved by people not just glossing over and saying, that's a thorny problem, I'll just guess, but by actually saying, if I take a day to really figure out what I would care about, the factors that matter and how much they matter to me, and then judge each thing on the basis of those factors, it makes solutions like jump out. You know what I mean? It's not that everything comes out to be about 78 and I still don't have a solution. There's usually like a 90, 80, 70, 60. And dollars wise, you can say, how much am I willing to do more to jump from 80 to 90? Sometimes it's too much. Sometimes it's just right. And so Colleen has said, and I'm happy to, that we've bought very few lemons by using choosinator type things for our vacuum cleaner and our garage and whatever else it might be. There's very little buyer's remorse that we've had. There's very little that lasted a year. We've really had very good luck with doing the research up front and not then having that disappointment and having to go into refund hell and warranty hell and that kind of stuff. So I'm glad that it became handy for you with your car search.
Absolutely.
And also, I think part of doing with choosinator is you don't have to do it for everything. You know what I mean? If you're going to buy a candy bar, you don't have to look at the coconut content in order to be able to judge, will I like, it's only going to cost me $1. So part of wisdom is you don't use the same hammer every single freaking job. You use the tool as appropriate. And sometimes it really is, I feel like pancakes. I don't have to know between the buckwheat and the.
It's what you feel like. Yeah. So slightly jumping this past weekend, what a freaking crazy weekend. Before that, besides that, let's forget about the political gun crap, but we lost Richard Simmons. We lost Dr. Ruth and Shannon Doherty, which that one hit me the most because we're the same age. And I used to watch 90210 a lot and Charmed, actually. So to have, oh, that's my age. And
especially a weird one where someone, absolutely a peer of yours, didn't make further.
Without being in the past retirement age, 53, she's got 20, 25 years of acting left. And that was a kind of rough one. She's been battling that for a while. And everybody says, yeah.
I don't.
Oh, she had breast cancer in 2018 and it spread and several times and she couldn't get rid of it. So like April, she announced that it had spread to her brain.
Kind of metastasization that you don't come back from. Yeah. That's not easily treatable. Oh boy.
Yeah, that was but then I was at the Columbus Book Festival, which you really should come down to that when they do it in July. It is a jam. The Columbus Library is super fantastic. So first of all, the big thing for me was I got to talk to John Scalzi. So that was exciting.
Look like exactly Old Man's War. Still one that series is a really good. I love a bunch of stuff.
Red Shirts is the one that got me in the comedy stuff. He did one called the Kaiju Preservation Society. Exactly. The newest one shows a cat with a suit and it's called Starter Villain.
Okay.
So I got to talk to him, but it's a fantastic.
You're in Ohio?
It's Cincinnati.
That's cool. I didn't know he was that close. Okay.
Yeah. So it's just so fantastic. It's only the second year they've done it. Last year was the first year they expected 10,000 people and they got 30,000. This year they hit 42,000 people visiting
for all of the weekend or all week long or how?
No, it's Saturday and Sunday, just Saturday and Sunday, but they do everything. So inside they have talks and they have 3 tracks going on all day and it's authors you pretty much know or you've heard of, or at least somebody has. And then you could buy their books. And the books are from like the Book Loft and Prologue. The bookstores sell the stuff. And then they have signing tables so you can get stuff signed. So that's the big name draws. But then outside, not only do they have all that going on they have live bands playing throughout the day. They have vendor tents and exhibitors. And there must have been like 100, 120 exhibitor vendor tents of
And all
everything.
downtown, right near the library. That's a really
It's
cool.
in the back of the library. It's in Topiary Park. So the vendors, a lot of bookstores, some cool book people, but a few other little things here and there. But it's so many cool things. They have food trucks, like 20 different food trucks with lines, 42,000 people, lines forever. But the best part was they set up this big circus tent and it's indie author alley. They embrace and pull in local authors to set up and stuff. And better than just that, because 10 years ago, libraries, oh, you're an indie author, I don't want to talk to you. Now they're like, yeah, here's a form, fill it out, we'll get your book in the library, that type of thing.
That's wonderful.
But there were people walking through the tent buying books. That's, you can set up a tent all you want, but if
Right.
nobody goes to buy the books, who cares? There were lots of people walking through, looking at the indie authors, buying books. There are 100 and something indie authors, 95, 100 authors, something like that. So
All different genres, and that's wonderful. Actually, most of what I do at Comic Cons nowadays, not look for old comic books to fill in my collection, look at all the new books, graphic novels, etc., and try to help out the starving artists. Exactly.
And by the way, I owe you an apology. Had a note to tell you last week's episode, and I forgot. Socorro was down here at Adams Action Figures, but you see him all the time at the cons anyway. So.
I do. Exactly. He's a great guy. Those local success stories, and he's not a flash in the pan. He's been going for 20 years now and has expanded the Hero Tomorrow line and stuff like that. Wonderful. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
And
So I
don't
went
be-
down there. I grabbed the latest Bloom issue. It's the only one he recognized me. So that's cool. Yeah. So it was a great weekend. Really, I know.
Usually in July and like this, maybe second weekend or something.
Yeah, right around this time. I'm sure they'll do it next year. It was a huge success. It's not that far away. It's worth the drive down and checking it out for the day, see what all's going on.
With longer, because sometimes what they'll do is they'll have like industry days, be Monday through Wednesday, where they have all the workshops and how to sell your books, and then the public part Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or something like that, where you get a chance to meet their fans, and there's already been a whole bunch of good networking already done and stuff like.
They ask for what suggestions do you have, and that may be something I may pass back. You know what? All of us authors, Thursday, Friday author sessions and writing sessions or something, that might be a cool thing to do too as part of this whole thing. Maybe it'd work, maybe it wouldn't. I don't know.
Did you sell many books where you were flying off the shelf?
Not flying off the shelves. I did sell more than anywhere else I'd been. I pretty much broke even. And when I say broke even, it means the profit paid for the table. And I count profit as here's what it cost me for the book. So here's my profit. So that paid for the table and a couple bucks extra. I got some cheesecake.
Very good. Okay. I know that's any number of art fairs. That's the dealer calculation is. I really not only goodwill and getting my name out there. I'd like to make some money. I'd like so.
And honestly, I signed up for this like November, and I should have had 2 books out, which are both at editors at the moment. But one circumstance and another, they didn't get all done and get published and out. So I think if I would have had those out, it would have helped a lot. But they're close. So next year, if I get in.
For next year, time, it's really nice. I am often attracted when I go at a Comic-Con or something like that. Here's my book. It's more, here's my theory. I've been doing this for 6 books already. So there's a certain amount of, I love theory. I like the fact that I'm going to read the characters. I love that they had the stick-to-itiveness and learn from their craft, and that this one looks better than the first one. That is reads better, you know what I mean? So next year you can make a wonderful flip, which will have an array of things.
And like I said, all the AI stuff I'm doing, I've got the hotline coming up. I've got a picture book coming up. I'm going to do a YouTube channel where the characters from the book are analyzing paranormal videos that people post. So
I still don't get why I couldn't listen to the MP3. I got every utility that you should be able to open every form.
Yeah, that's weird.
Graphic and sound and everything. And yet I couldn't. When I tried to save that and then listen to it, I couldn't throw a player at it. So I'm not sure. I don't know why. I'll experiment with it to see if it's in a wrapper and I have to get past the meta information to get to the actual content. I didn't work hard enough at it. I just kept trying various different things instead of using one to try to further. You know what I mean? Because there's
Right.
things that, way back in the days of MP3 players, there were things that even though it called itself an MP3, they weren't all equal.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay.
We got through
Mhm.
some of our list.
Exactly. But I'm very happy. Colleen and I are looking for these wonderful things. Now that we have relative control over our schedule, zooming down to Columbus for a good weekend to like, oh no, that really fit our target,
Nice.
our what we want to do. So thank you for letting me know that, and I'll look for it.
There is something coming up in September, the weekend, like the 14th-ish, I believe. I'll get the exact date. It's up in Avon, maybe? I'll have to go check. But it's a skunk fest. It's a skunk rescue that they have vendors come in. They have a whole day skunk fest, and all the money goes to help this skunk rescue. And if you've
If you heard
never,
a Columbus group talk about that, one of their RG, if I'm sure there's different free like that, but I actually went to a cool talk about it.
yeah, and if you've never held and petted a skunk, they're super wonderful. Everyone's, oh, no, they've all been the glands removed. They're very
denatured or whatever they call it.
Yeah, they're very
fur was
docile,
luxurious,
gentle. Their
Yeah.
fur is coarse and wiry, but it's very thick and dense, almost like hunter's fur. That's something coming up, and it's right next door to you. We're going to sell soaps. We're going to have a special limited edition skunk soap that does not smell like skunks.
I will look for that. Like Avon is 20 minutes away. Exactly.
So I know there's a whole lot of stuff coming up. We're getting close to fall. Tons of
Okay.
crap going on in the fall.
All right. Take care, Stephen. Thank you very much.
Too, man. Talk to you later.
You have been listening to the Relentless Geekery Podcast. Come back next week and join Alan and Steven's conversation on geek topics of the week.